somebody else
I
has
was just wondering if you feel there's a need for a public apology because of this incident.
I think that I actually have no issue with apologizing for what happened that night, as long as it's made clear that the officers were acting under what they believed was proper protocol and procedure. So I guess what I would apologize for is that I didn't see the procedural things that I would have changed sooner. The unfortunate part about it was we seldom do until something happens, and that requires us to look at things a little bit harder. My staff and I are working very hard to make the Columbia Police Department one of the best departments in the country. We don't want this kind of thing to tarnish our image or our reputation. And we want the citizens of this city to believe we're one of the best police departments in the country. And I can tell you that the men and women of this department are working very hard to get us there. And the ones that, I'm not naive, there may be officers out there, there's bad apples in every basket. And my commitment to you is to ferret those out and get rid of them because we don't need them. But our department, the command staff of this department, do not want this to happen again. And I think if I left you with anything, I'd want the public to hear that, is that they do not want this to happen again. So trust in the command staff. I wish this was a perfect world, and I can tell you it never will. But we'll never make another mistake. The reality is we're likely to. My commitment to you is that we're going to try to detect the things that may make us make mistakes ahead of time and fix them before they happen. We're not always going to be able to do that. Sometimes I'm going to stand before you and I'm going to say we made a mistake. We're fixing it.
Chief, can the results of these findings of this investigation, both, I guess, into this specific incident and into departmental policy about use of force, can these both be reviewed by the Citizens Review Board?
If I'm understanding your question, you're saying the investigation itself and the new policy?
Right. I mean, the Citizens Review Board can review department policy, but I guess my question is, can the Review Board now review the results of the investigation into Mr. Whitworth's?
That's a good question, but and I have to tell you, we've not received a complaint from the Whitworths or anybody else involved with this. I initiated the complaint myself. So the way I understand the policy is that if the person making the complaint is dissatisfied with my decision, then they can appeal to the Civilian Review Board. At this point, I'm the complainant. Nobody else has come forward. So unless I'm unhappy with my own decision, I don't know how it would get there. But I think that the City Council has made it very clear they want to look at it. And obviously, if they tell me they want the Civilian Review Board to look at it, it's an open book. They're welcome to.
I was just trying to confirm that. I had the same reading of the law, but I did have one point of clarification because I was looking at the statute. Under the statute's definite terms, a complainant can be a person who files a complaint with the police department against an officer. There's no specific language in there about someone having to be involved with the incident.
And we're taking all those complaints, and everybody that sent us a complaint saying they didn't like this will get a response as to my decision. What I'm saying is I'm not sure what the legal basis for the appeal would be if you weren't there and you didn't know what really happened. And unfortunately, that's one of those things that one of the reasons we have a Civilian Review Board is that people feel like that our version is the only version out there. In this case, I don't know what else I would do. I'm telling you that we've looked at it, we've kicked over every rock and everything that we could think of that we could have done better, and we've admitted it to you. So I welcome them to look at it. If they choose to do that and they can get it through the ordinance somehow, then I would support that. Yes, Brent?
The second internal investigation, was that initiated by a complainant or by the department?
The second one on the officer who
at the scene, who said that it
was a drill?
It was a drill going on.
Actually, that came from the citizen. How that all played out is the 911 operator said, I'll have an officer call you. This officer called, really wasn't sure what he could say or couldn't say, so he said something that wasn't true. And we had a supervisor, in fact, the SWAT commander called back and told the citizen what had occurred. And until it came up here, I think at the Civilian Police Review Board, and that became an issue, then we made it an issue. Obviously, We heard somebody had told a citizen something that was untrue, and we looked into it. And sure enough, right, that citizen was satisfied with the explanation of the supervisor. We still went in there and said, hey, why'd you do this? And it was simply a young officer and didn't know what to say. You know, I know that I have to be careful with what I say as far as suspects, and this could be a suspect I'm talking to, I don't know. So he was careful to the point of saying something untrue. My philosophy is you just tell people, I don't know. I'll find somebody that will call you back that does know. And that's good enough for citizens most of the time. But it was just not appropriate for him to say untrue. Any other media questions? Yes, ma'am.
You said that this happened because you didn't know about the procedure before and it's hard to know. Is there any protocol for when the chief first comes into position for checking procedures? And in addition to dynamic entry, which is what you revised, are you going to look into any of your other protocol procedures?
I'd almost like to put that question to my staff, because I've done nothing but answer questions over the past year, or ask questions over the past year. And I'll state publicly that I have not been easy on them. There are things that I thought needed immediate change. And I'm very proud to say that a lot of things that I asked them to do, they didn't believe in. But they're standing behind me now. And, excuse me. I'm not easy to work for. I'm very demanding. I insist on excellence, and the people standing in this room right here are excellent, excellent people. Next question.
Yes, sir. Still a lot of information about locking the dog. I'm just kind of curious about the approximate age of the pit, and the fact that the report says that they encountered the dogs at the front door, but you reported to us just now that the dogs refused to retreat.
What I would suggest to you folks, and you've got some questions that are valid questions, and I know they are, I'm not trying to put you off, but we're going to post this on the internet along with all the documents related to this incident. At your leisure, go in there, look at it. You have further questions, call me. Call me, and I'll do my best to answer your questions or your concerns. We're putting it all out there. It'll all be on the city's website. Go on there along with the documents. Jesse, what all else are we putting out there? Everything.
The new guidelines, policy changes, complete copy of the chief's written statement today, a news release summarizing the event as well as the investigative findings, and a play-by-play of that video so that you'll be able to look at that and see exactly how all that transpired. It'll all be on the website at gocolumbiamo.com.
Brent?
There's been a lot of talk about the informants. You told us today about the bags in the attic and the safe. Why release that information now and not 2 weeks ago to reassure residents concerning your use of informants?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because a person is innocent until they're proven guilty. And we repeatedly got the same questions. I'm not about slandering anybody. We went in there with a probable cause warrant for a felony amount of marijuana. That's all I can tell you. We didn't find it. We found evidence that it had been there at one time. And, I answered that in response to a question. My PIO told me, if you're asked, say it. And so I did. And there's a lot of things that we're not interested in slandering anybody. As far as we're concerned, that criminal case is closed, done, over. And if, God forbid another case came up that involved Mr. Whitworth, I don't ever want to be accused of trying to put him in a bad spot. He's came in, he paid his fine for what he was charged with, and he went on down the road. So I think we ought to let him do that. Yes.
Just wanted to clarify one last time. So you've made changes to the decision-making process and on surveillance and when to commit to dynamic entry, but is there an actual articulable change in policy to when the SWAT team goes in the door, they encounter a dog, or suspect that there may be in the house? I mean, has any of that changed?
We can't. That is all based on the safety of the officers and the people involved. I can tell you that I fully expect the number of dynamic entries that we conduct in the city of Columbia is going to plummet. I think that we'll use alternative methods of running these warrants that are less intrusive. And it'll be, I'll just tell you, if we run a dynamic warrant, it's going to be because we had to. That was the last resort, and that was the only way we could figure to get in there and do what we needed to do.